to the first episode of Becoming a Black Belt. For Sustainable Jiu-Jitsu, obviously run a studio for a long time, been coaching Jiu-Jitsu and martial arts for a long time. So I thought it'd be kind of cool. We now have 7 black belts with us at Sustainable Jiu-Jitsu and Team Marrero Australia, homegrown. And I thought, what better way to start off episode 1 with one of my first young clients that started all the way to black belt, Michael Dorr. Thank you, my bro.
Thank you,
Thank you so much. So yeah, we wanted to ask him about becoming a black belt, talk about his journey and what jiu-jitsu and the martial arts has done for him. And we thought it'd be interesting to share with you guys from his point of view, not my point of view. So thanks for your time, my mate.
Not a problem.
What age were you when you started? 19?
About 9-10, so it was about late 2009 that I started, yeah.
Beautiful. And what got you into jiu-jitsu? What made you come down to training?
So around then, I think I'd started watching like mixed martial arts competitions like UFC, Pride, and just being at that age, I think that's just something that really appeals to many 19-year-olds at the time. And it was
very popular, Pride.
Yeah, it was. And I remember I was a big boxing fan originally. Like I really like boxing, kickboxing. I really like striking arts. And I remember watching mixed martial arts and seeing these guys just take these strikers to the ground and make them look useless. And that really shocked me a little bit because, you know, I had so many just biased ideas, I guess, about what was effective and what wasn't in martial arts. So that got me interested to study Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because that seemed to be the art that was really having a huge impact at the time, and that's what really got me in there. But I think originally, actually, I first came in, I more wanted to wrestle and box.
Yeah.
And
I remember.
and it wasn't until a little later on that I was really started. I got my first gi and got the white belt on and started to get underway with it.
I actually remember when you came in and so we had a bit of a play. We ended up on the wall and I was like, yeah, just playing around. I thought, yeah, not necessarily underestimating, or maybe a little bit underestimating. And then just play around and you went boom, and you snap me up and almost like a dast choke.
Yeah, that was.
We hit the ground. I was like, hell no, I'm not getting choked out by this guy.
I can't remember what his event was. I remember the fighters. It was Randy Couture and Mike Van Arsdale, and Randy did a gator roll to
that's right,
to the arm triangle. And
and I was like, ooh, that was very surprising. I didn't think you'd come up with that. And then we laughed about it. It's always something I remember.
I was just happy I rolled the right way when I because if you go the other way, well, it's not very good.
Oh, great gold. So throughout the years, so now it's been almost 12 years for Jiu-Jitsu,
right? And
you were just awarded your black belt in November, December, towards the end.
Yeah.
And what a display of excellence. But what impresses me about the black belt is obviously not just the skills, but the philosophy that comes with jiu-jitsu. So I think people think, you know, just because you get your black belt or whatnot, now all of a sudden you can do whatever you want, and you know this, you know that. But there's so much more to a black belt than just having the skills. What about, does it help you off the mats?
Yes, definitely. I think, like, saying it's a philosophy, it's definitely like a philosophy, it's a mindset, it's the way you approach things. I felt Jiu-Jitsu is really given me a framework that I can use for almost any type of challenge or activity to just pursue, basically. I think the biggest thing, we were just talking about this before, about becoming a black belt, was I mentioned that I felt like I've almost come full circle from when I was a white belt and everything was like new and exciting, and then you go through the stages of the various belts and the different things that come with that. Such as like when I was a blue belt, for instance, I went through the notorious plateau phase for a while.
I remember.
And I think when you get, like, for me, when coming back to getting my black belt, I feel like I've come full circle, and now I don't know, everything just feels like new. It feels like I have new insight into things, and I'm just picking up new things constantly. And I think it's because you really just embrace a lot of the challenges that early on felt really overwhelming.
Yes, yeah.
Because I think, like, when I first had my white belt, I had this probably overinflated sense of my own excellence. Like I thought I was a lot better than I was, you know, and I thought, you know,
you almost got that.
Yeah. So you pick up and you learn all these new techniques, and you get very excited with them, and you think, oh, I'm great. And sometimes you misunderstand as well. Like for instance, when you're teaching me new techniques, and then we're putting them into practice, and I'm getting to positions, and I'm pulling off these submissions. I think you sometimes forget that you're guiding me to this end goal so that I become familiar and comfortable with these techniques. But then you'll come across someone else who's maybe your level or higher, and you try and you go, well, this doesn't work, or you'll feel like it doesn't work because you haven't tested it out live yet. And so then that whole, I think it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect, comes into play, where you suddenly realize you don't know as much as you think you do, and you're staring at what feels like just this like huge learning curve that you realize you have to take before you can get even to your next belt. Like, yeah, and I feel like two things can happen from that. Either it can defeat you, or you'll just embrace that grind, and you'll start realizing that if you want to get up there, that it's got to be a long journey, and it's a marathon, not a sprint. You've got to take your time, and
mate, 100%. And also, and I think that's really important, because becoming a black belt, and any belt, but we're talking now is becoming a black belt. You don't just stop at black belt. It just starts again. But I think that's actually the massive part of the learning. So I think when people think or look at things that they can't get a submission, or more submissions, or more this, more moves, but what about more resilience and eating more humble pie? And you're actually starting to learn. So let's say at that blue belt, you were like, you know what, I'm not getting it, I'm done. Yeah. Then you would never have gone through all the resilience and all the uncomfortable and all the emotions and everything else that came with it. Not about the win or the lose on the mats, that's kind of irrelevant. Exactly. Because that just gets better through all of what we're talking about. Yes. And that's what's really most important for me. That's where it becomes the vehicle for life. Yeah. Because that resilience that you learned back in the day is now tenfold where you are now, and where you'll be in years to come, even more so.
Well, that's exactly right. And I think I remember early on, as well as a white belt, you know, I definitely wasn't the biggest guy in the gym, and you know, some of the guys I remember rolling with back then, these guys were huge. Yeah, and very, very, very strong guys too. And we were at the same skill level too, but when you add into the equation, I have that extra size and things like that, you know, I found myself on my back a lot. I found, you know, I was constantly playing from guard, or they would pass my guard, and I would be constantly defending from the bottom. And I would you know, I would sometimes get to the top, but mainly I was on my back defending all the time. And it's interesting in Jiu-Jitsu that a lot of the times that you feel are the most challenging end up actually being the most beneficial to you. Yes. Because that definitely taught me early on, okay, I have to change my mindset with Jiu-Jitsu immediately, because I'm not going to just take these guys down and submit them. And in actual fact, it's the other way around a lot of the time. So that kind of taught me that, okay, I have to actually learn to be comfortable in really uncomfortable positions. I have to learn to like ride out the storm, if you like, and learn to figure out ways that I can make it challenging for the person who's trying to submit me. And I feel like that the lessons I learned on the mat, then I would carry that across into my everyday life, where I might enter environments where I might not be the most standout person. I might actually be average, or even maybe less than average in terms of my technical proficiency or other things. But that doesn't mean you just throw in the towel and give up. That actually means that you've got to get a bit of, I guess, a bit of grit, a bit of grind,
and like you said, you've got to look at it from a holistic point of view, instead of if you're only going by winning. I don't know. Number one, who are you beating? And number two, you're never going to beat everybody. So you end up trying to beat yourself. And exactly. That's your goal. Yeah. And so now what you've learned through those experiences has actually made your game, as in quote unquote physical game, so much better. Yes. And your mind obviously so much better. And you realise it's not just a another move.
Yes.
So let's say we are talking about moves, it's more about how am I going to mess with your mind, or the other person's physical, the other person's mental, and the other person's emotional. Because we know it's not who's best, it's who's left.
Exactly.
As in, that's why you got to the black belt, because you've got that mindset. But I think you need to take, or people need to take a more holistic view of it. And if you want to use it and compete, that's cool. Make sure you've got the self-protection, make sure you've got the R, but most importantly, make sure that you're looking within and you're learning about yourself instead of just more moves.
Yes,
the moves are actually the easy bit. It's more about what is it doing for your own self and your own confidence. I think that's the sad bit when people stop. If they do stop, they get to a certain point and they don't push through that next phase because they think just because they're not getting the submission, that's not the submission though. It's the dealing with the self, which will help you get what you want down the track.
Well, because I think I mentioned before about hitting that plateau at blue belt. I think there's that thing that happens because after white belt, you know, everything's exciting, you're learning all those new moves, and then you get to blue belt, you get your belt, and it's all that excitement, but then it's like you turn up, you know, the first day after you've got your blue belt, and you're like, all right, what's new? And it's like you've already established, you know, all the positions, you have now an arsenal of techniques as well. But now the learning starts to slow a little bit. It changes in a different way. Like you might be just learning, you might just be getting more efficient at certain things. And what can happen is you can lose your zest for a little bit. And this happened to me. And I remember coming onto the mat and just struggling a lot. And I was in my own head a lot. Like I just felt like I wasn't getting better. I actually felt like I was regressing a bit, and I wasn't having much fun with it at the time. I remember this. It never actually entered my mind to walk away. Like I'd never give it up, but it was more like I was just waking up every morning, just going, "Okay, is today the day I finally just." It finally happens. Things click and I get better, and it didn't. And it took. I'm not sure how long it took, but it felt like it was a long. I think I was blue belt for just around two years, maybe a bit longer, and it felt like after that initial 6 months after I got my blue belt, it felt like a very long 18 or so months after that.
Mate, and what an amazing growth though, to actually push through it. Because like I said, you could have quit on it, but you didn't, and you came back and you've come out the other end.
Yes.
And wow, what a black belt you've become.
So that was a very important lesson I picked up from that, and it's just like, just turn up, just come down, get on the mats, and just never give up, just keep trying. And I think it was one day, I'm not sure what happened. I think it was, I just woke up one day and I was just like, I just stopped, it sounds funny, but I stopped caring about trying to get better. And I just got on the mat and just things started clicking and things started working. And I was like, it's funny how like it felt like I was still putting in effort, but it felt like I wasn't, like mentally, I just wasn't trying as hard anymore. And things just started to happen. Like I just noticed things, I started to move in different ways. And that's when I think my own growth I felt started to accelerate.
Well, I actually saw that when you did sort of turn to come out of it, you were looked at it from a different perspective as a less expectation. And you were like, I would say in my mind that then you took more of a holistic approach. You know what? I enjoy jiu-jitsu, I enjoy the company, enjoy the studio, enjoy the people that you're around, and you know what? I'm just going to have fun. And that's like anything in life that I've recognised, that when you do take that expectation out of things, you know what? I'm just going to have fun. Like you said, you don't take anything where you're not just stop trying. You've just got like, you know what? I'm just going to enjoy it, and then everything happens. I think that's important, and I wanted to reference this because I thought this was quite special, and I always share this with people. And I said, it's about always coming back. It doesn't matter, and that belt doesn't just recognise the skill level you have and the philosophy and how nice you are, people, and how good you are on the mats and on all of the above. But it also recognised when you didn't have the money, you still came. When you couldn't be bothered, you still came. When you're going through good times and bad times, you still came. And so I say that, remember, you training twice a week privately, and you said to me, you could either put petrol in your car and go to university, or you could come to training. And you came to training. And I thought that was actually quite special, because now you're, what's your profession now, Mike?
Well, I've just finished my second degree. So my first was studying in economics, finance. My second degree was a law degree, and so that's the area that I'm entering now. And
So missing uni a few times to come to jiu-jitsu didn't hinder
No, it didn't.
what your end goal was.
Yeah, so I think university was giving me a specific type of learning, but it was really isolated to that kind of the academic world, whereas this I can apply in the academic world, in my personal life, everywhere, because it's just the various principles that you learn and you stick by. You learn, all of the lessons that I learned from here, such as the resilience, that grit, that just turning up, just getting things done. Well, that's exactly what I used to get me through university.
Yeah.
Because the university itself is challenging enough at times, and there's a lot of times where you're paying a lot of money, you're not guaranteed work afterwards, and you've got to really, really want it. And so when you have those days where it's like, you don't really have that zest for it, and in fact you maybe even dislike it at the time, you still show up, you still do it anyway.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, absolutely. I really, I always see it into my mind, that is. So that's really impressive, and I've watched you go from a 19-year-old young man and grow through relationships and through work and through lots of things, and to where you are now at 30 years young.
31.
It's getting there.
Close.
So 30, or too late. But to see the man that you've become now, and I actually remember your mum sending me a message many years ago, and it was a lovely message. That was really nice from your mum, but and I sent her a message back, and we won't go into detail, but I said, I know you're actually an absolute gentleman, and proud to have you as a black belt and someone on the mats and sharing your knowledge now and helping others. And what's your future plans for with your jiu-jitsu?
So I'm currently looking at making a permanent move to the Scandinavian area, to Sweden, because my lovely fiance, she lives there currently. She's overseas right now. She's went back there to do further education. She's studying at the moment, and my plan is to move there permanently. I love it. It's a great place, and
absolutely,
my dream is to go over there and to open up my own gym there under the banner SJJ, and really just get what we've been doing and just carry the banner across there and really move to that corner of the world and really just get things going there.
Mate, and that'd be an honour, and I think it's so important to have someone like you to go over there, not just share the skills of jiu-jitsu, like we said, the art or the sport or the self-protection, but also the philosophy of what we just said before about what took you from a 19-year-old man to a 31-year-old man to where you are currently, and build you and share that. Because that's the most important thing, is that the jiu-jitsu is a vehicle for life, and you're the perfect example of it, and to where what it can give you to help in other parts of life. So one part is only on the mats. Yep, skills excellent, but what is it doing when you jump off the mats? I have a question for you, Mike.
Okay.
Is jiu-jitsu with you on the 2, 3, 4 days that you train, or is jiu-jitsu with you
everywhere
I
go? I mean, I think about recently the situation in Perth where we had the mini lockdown for a week or two, and I just remember just seeing people just panicking and freaking out and realizing that their physiology had overcome their mind, that they had become subjects to their own the response they were having to the environment around them. And I remember walking, just witnessing some of these things and just thinking, why wasn't I reacting in the same way? And you start to realize that the things you learn on the mat, where you have these, you have moments where your nervous system will spike up. You might get a little bit nervous, you might get intimidated because you might have a really large opponent standing across from you, or maybe a higher belt, and you go, I might get hurt, or this person may make me look really bad or average, you know what I mean? And you have some doubts, some insecurities start to spike up. But I think you learn to become comfortable in those situations. You begin to realize that these things are normal to feel and experience, you sit with them and you let them run their course, but at the end of the day, you still take action, you still move how you want to move, and you always remain in control of yourself, I think.
Absolutely, and whether it's on the mats or it's in a work environment or in a relationship environment, and that's the whole point of getting that resilience and that uncomfortable.
Yes.
So I'd say that if you don't get in touch and feel your emotions, good and bad, then how are you going to learn how to control them?
Yes.
But I would say this, and I know that you agree with it, is that when you do get it, and you do this on the floor with your jiu-jitsu, and you're pushing each other and you're getting those emotions to come out, then it's in an inoculative way.
Yes.
So you're not overstimulating someone so they have a panic attack.
Yes.
You're stimulating them enough for them to build up to the point where you go, now I can actually give you a lot of pressure, a lot of game, and you're handling it well, and that will then directly come out onto the outside world.
Exactly.
You think, well, I always use driving in a car and someone, pulls in front of you for 2 seconds.
Well,
and people go ballistic.
Exactly.
Wow, you've gone ballistic over 2 seconds. Something good.
That's exactly right. Well, I mean, yeah, if you use an analogy of driving in traffic, I mean, if you have someone, tailgating you, it's like, and you the moment you recognize it in, say, your rear vision mirror and you see what's happening, and you immediately start to have a response to that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I feel that's what happens in jiu-jitsu, like as you progress through your belts, the time which you can remain in control, calm, keep everything under control, not be affected by these things, it increases tenfold over time. And it gets to that point where you develop like these internal mechanisms where you can keep yourself calm indefinitely. It's just like the person could be sitting behind you for an hour and just like, whatever.
Yeah.
Don't even care.
Because the ultimate goal is, it's not like in jiu-jitsu and outside, it's not about beating the other person or whatnot, it's about beating your own self. So just dealing with your own emotions all the time.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter whether you were black belts, white belts, or any coloured belt. If you don't control your mind, you don't control anything.
Exactly.
If you don't control it, it controls you.
Oh, very much.
And this is the number one thing I think that jiu-jitsu gives you, as well as everything else.
No, definitely. And I would just say, I'll just touch on another point. I think. So I mentioned before about hitting that plateau. I think the next biggest challenge I faced, on my way to black belt, I just think it's important to mention, is you enter what I felt was definitely imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Like I remember when you gave me my brown belt, and I wouldn't say I wasn't overly excited about it, because it wasn't that I didn't feel like I deserved it. I felt it felt heavy when you handed it to me, because I suddenly realized, I'm like, wow, it's an advanced belt. There's so much I felt there was so much expectation that comes with this.
Is that word again?
Exactly. And I remember wearing it and just thinking like, oh, am I ready for this? I don't even know if I even earned this or if I deserved it. And that's another thing I think, maybe not everyone, but it's definitely something I had to deal with.
I think you'll find a lot of people will deal with the same.
And the interesting thing that comes out of that is, when I received my black belt, it was a total opposite. I was elated. I was very, very grateful. I really, really enjoyed receiving that. And I think now the difference was I'd learned to trust myself more and trust the process, trust like your own skill set, and understand also where you are in the grand scheme of things in terms of your journey with jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if you started white belt here and the end, well, there is no rule, and you learn your whole life, but you understand that you've gone from here to there, and not everyone will, only a small percentage of the population will ever get to this point. And I'm now comfortable knowing that this is where I am, and I'm just going to keep going. And
beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's so well said as well, because and also I think you have to trust your coach, whether it's me or someone else, and out there, but you have to trust that I'm seeing things that you're not seeing.
Yes. Yeah.
And I know what you've got. You don't know quite what you've got yet, but it's going to be. It's all coming together. Everything's organic. I personally would never award someone something that they didn't deserve, because I wouldn't disrespect the person.
Yeah.
I wouldn't disrespect myself, and I certainly wouldn't disrespect jiu-jitsu. but I can see what you can't see, but also you have looking for skills, knowledge, and attitude.
Yeah.
So say the brown belt or now the black belt. The black belt is not just, well, Mike is very good on the mats, very good, very skilled, but also how is he with all the other clients? How is he with his partner? How is he at work?
Yes.
So there's a whole encompassing. So the skills, knowledge, and attitude is so important, because if it was just based on performance, but you're not a nice person outside, you wouldn't be there either.
No.
So they all come together, and that's what's happening now. Now and at 31 years young, now you start to see, wow, you've got all this knowledge, and I look forward to seeing where you go next.
Yes.
And I would say, make sure you look out for Professor Michael Dorr around Sustainable Jiu-Jitsu and Team Marrero Australia here in Perth, but in the future, and I'll keep you up to date with it to actually see you go over and share that knowledge over in Scandinavia. And, I'm proud to have you on board, mate, and proud to have you as a friend as well as a black belt.
Thank you very much, James.
Thank you, guys.